Hello and welcome to GameRomp Easy Mode. This is an easygoing podcast where my wife and I talk about video games.
Hi, my name's Deanna.
And I'm David, and we're going to try to keep a nice chill energy. And this week we got...
a lot of demos.
Yeah, it's Steam Next Fest, is that what it's called?
Yes.
And it's basically a million demos.
Yeah, way too many demos to play.
It's kind of fun, I guess.
As long as you can afford to download all the...
Well, the ones you want.
Yeah.
There's a lot that we didn't download that obviously we don't care about. It kind of reminds me of the old days of having a demo disc come in the mail every month.
I feel like those demo discs were a lot more cohesive than some of these demos.
I mean, maybe.
But maybe it's just the games that I ended up picking.
I guess one of the games I played ended up being a little bit janky, but still good. And I guess technically the other game I played was more of a free weekend rather than a traditional demo.
Oh, okay, so that was probably a little bit better.
It's basically the full game, yeah, except it's like you can only play it during the weekend, and then you're locked out. So when I went to go play it again, it's like you got to purchase it now. It's like, oh man. Anyway,
I don't know if I've ever actually used one of those free weekends. I'm sure I have, and then just not tried it again.
Yeah, there's been times where I've played one of the free weekend games, and I got tired of it before the weekend was up, so I just like uninstalled it. But this was one of the rare ones where it's like, oh, I wanted to keep playing it, but no. And Steam was like, okay, you got to purchase it now.
Poor you.
Anyway, I'd say we start with you because you played a lot more.
Yeah, and I guess I'll go with the games that I liked better.
Yeah.
And then, maybe a quick blurb about the ones that didn't turn out all too well. I think if I'm going to pick one of these that did the best, it's probably going to be Do No Harm. So this is a game set in like 1889. You're a doctor that sees an ad, I guess, for a poor little seaside town that has lost their other doctor for unknown reasons. So you decide, well, I guess I'll leave the city and I'll go to this, bumfuck nowhere place and be their doctor and see how it goes.
Is this the one that kind of looks Lovecraftian? Yes.
This has very mysterious shit's going on here. You don't know why.
I remember seeing this on the on the top list of demos and thinking, oh, this might be something for Deanna.
Yeah, so I definitely felt that same way. And it's definitely the most put together of all these demos, which was nice. And another thing that it kind of feels like to me is vaguely like Papers, Please. Because you start off with very simple things and you're like taking these people's medical cards and they're like, oh, I have this symptom. And you look it up. And because it's the 1880s or almost the 1890s, they're still working on the assumption of the humors. Oh. So like you have 4 vials of quote unquote medicine, and one is the blood medicine. Let's see, there's the blood medicine, there's the phlegm, then there's the yellow bile and the black bile.
Okay.
And I obviously have no idea how the humors worked, but you kind of just look at like, oh, this symptom takes this type of medicine, whatever. And then you fill the vial and you give them a shot and either they feel better or, God forbid, they feel worse. And then you just sign your name on their medical paper, give it back, and they're like, okay. And if you help them, obviously they'll pay you. And if you don't, they just walk out and say, fuck you, basically. The thing that gives me the vibe of Papers, Please is, the first day you go and you just start with giving them a shot. Like, it fills up the whole vial, and that's it.
You're injecting them with stuff?
Yeah. But then the second day, you can start giving them a specific amount of the vial instead of the whole fucking thing. And then, it's just progressively each day you start adding a new issue. And at the end of each day, you have to fill up your medicine vials to full, hopefully. But you can also put that off if you didn't use one of the medicines too much. So it kind of feels like at the end of the day in Papers, Please, we have to buy food and buy medicine for your sick mother-in-law or something. Mm-hmm. And so you only have so much left over. it has that aspect to it. And I looked at who made and distributed the game, but it's neither of the ones that made or distributed Papers, Please. But it definitely it gives that vibe.
Interesting.
And not to get like too much into the story, because I think if you're into gameplay where it's a little bit narrative and you're kind of just sitting at the desk and you got to figure out the conundrum of what these people are suffering from and stuff, you should probably play this demo.
So there is a story.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at one of the days, like, this old witch-looking lady comes in, and she's like, oh, I can see it in your face, you're not feeling too well, you've been seeing shit, right? And she gives you, like, this totem and 3 bottles of some magic juice stuff.
Okay.
So every time you see something that's, as they say, every time you see an anomaly, to drink the juice. And the anomaly will go away. But you only have like 3 bottles of this stuff, and that's another thing that you can resupply at the end of the day. And it's
So you get 3 a day no matter what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe as the days go further, you can get more vials, or maybe it starts to work better or something. And obviously, I've only played like 3 or 4 days. I didn't want to go too far into it.
Why is that?
Well, first off, we started recording like these games and stuff, and I guess I haven't really been paying attention to how long I've been recording the games.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go over the 60 minutes. I thought it was 60 minutes per game. It's 60 minutes for all my games, so I kind of lost footage for the other games I played.
Yeah, a side note, we're just getting used to Steam's new recording thing and deciding if we're going to do something with that footage. If Steam's recording anyways, maybe we can do something with it on YouTube, but that'll be for later to decide or figure out.
Yeah, and again, I thought it was per game. It's not, at least as it works now. Maybe I have to reset it to do some
It makes sense, because when you go into the Steam settings, it's like, this is how many gigabytes it's going to take up. So like if it had that for every game, that would be crazy.
I mean, I guess, but I also have it at like the lowest setting, so it's like, oh, saving 60 minutes of gameplay regardless of how many games take up the 60 minutes. Oh, it'll be 5 gigabytes to like 17 gigabytes. But the 17 gigabytes is like if you're saving 4K or shit. I got 1080. It's saving like the 5 gigs. And I have plenty of room on my C drive, so I could handle it.
Yeah, so it'll be a matter of like deciding what the sweet spot of like time, and then just remembering to clip out or save the clips after you're done playing.
Yeah, because, like, it's interesting that I have to kind of clip specific parts, or I guess I could technically clip the entire, say, 60 minutes or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I can't just, like, right-click it and export it all together. Like, I have to specifically clip it. It's kind of weird.
Do you? I think... You know
when
what?
I right-click, it just says view or delete.
Let's worry about this outside the podcast and get back to demos. Is there anything else you want to say about this one? Or
basically just if you enjoyed playing Papers, Please, or anything in the vague realm of Papers, Please, I think this demo would be good. It's really well put together. I didn't come across any bugs, which is exceedingly rare for all the other ones I came across. I don't know. I just think it was really good.
Do you know if this game is out already? Because that might...
Oh, I did not check that.
Just a random thought, because like you said, like some of the other demos are clearly like pre-release stuff. So yeah, It's like, well, this game is a bit buggy and there's some issues, but it's not even out yet. So they're going to obviously work on it.
Hopefully.
So maybe this game, if it's already so well put together, maybe it is already out or out soon.
Yeah.
That'll be something to check.
Yeah, and this is called Do No Harm. So I'm intrigued of what's going on with this supposed doctor. And the, I guess, island community and what have you.
Cool.
So what was your first demo that you enjoyed?
Let's see. I guess I'll start with the one that was technically a free weekend, which I mean is basically a demo. It's like the full game, but you could only play it for like 2 or 3 days starting Friday. And it's Expeditions, a Mudrunner game. So I played Mudrunner. I think we got that for free on Epic.
Yeah, I think I played it once or twice.
And I finished Mudrunner. It was fun.
So you actually enjoyed Mudrunner?
Yeah, it was very simple. Mud Runners, I guess we can start there. I'll just be brief. You're in some, I don't know where it is, some wooded, maybe East European area where there's just a ton of mud. It's very rural, and it's basically go here, collect stuff, and then drop it off here, and stuff like that. Maybe once in a while it's like, oh, can you go rescue this truck that got stuck in the mud? It's very simple, and I don't know if you would want to call it like a truck simulator game. I guess kind of, but
I think it would count, yeah.
but the biggest thing you needed to worry about was like just the traction and, not getting stuck in mud and how to deal with that and using winches and stuff to get around if you need to. They had since made Snow Runners, which I have never played, but apparently a lot of people like. And then their next game after that was this one, Expeditions. The thing about this one is it's less about being like a truck simulator. I mean, in the sense that you're not like working for a trucking company and all you do is deliver stuff. This is more almost adventure stuff, maybe even science stuff, and just general driving around. There's
science stuff, huh?
There's like I think 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 areas in the base game, and then like 2 extra areas that are DLC.
Free or paid?
Paid DLC. But these areas are big, and I finished the first area, which was like the tutorial area, I guess. That one only had like 5 or 6 quote unquote expeditions. And then I went to the new one, which was like the Grand Canyon area.
Ooh, fancy. The
first area was somewhere in Colorado. One of the other areas that I wish I would have gotten to experience, but I ran out of time, was kind of looked like the Northeast, very pine forest and stuff. So it was very pretty.
Gotcha.
And the game is very pretty.
Now, this is the game where you're going to help rebuild areas, right?
No.
Oh, that's a... Okay, never mind.
You're thinking of their newest game. And that is also on the Steam Next Fest as a demo. I did download that demo, but I haven't played that one yet.
Okay.
That's disaster relief, rebuilding stuff. This is more like, for example, in the Colorado area, it's like one of the missions was, this was actually in the Grand Canyon area. Anyway, one of the missions was like, for example, we need to set up some weather tracking monitor stations. So load up your truck and go out and go up to this site and then this site and set up the weather tracking equipment.
Oh, this is where the science comes in.
Yeah, so it's like you got to get the truck that can support that. Another one of the missions was something like, oh, we're tracking some drones that have crashed, and we need to like recover and figure out how much this is going to cost. So we need you to drive out there, use one of the trucks that's equipped with a metal detector, so we can find all the bits of it. So you're driving around like this canyon, and having to use a little metal detector to find out where the things are, etc. But there's also missions that are just like, oh, our friend Brad has gone missing out in the wilderness. So can you go, check on him and see if you can find him? And it's basically like, okay, so in Mud Runners, you would get like trucks and stuff, right? And in this one, there's still trucks, but there's also scout vehicles, which are more like just SUVs or Jeeps or just like regular vehicles that are not like big hulking trucks.
Yeah.
So these are more maneuverable, but they can't carry as much stuff.
Makes sense.
So yeah, in this mission, it was like, can you go find him? So we go to his last known location, and then we see like some ATV tracks so that go through the canyons. Like, okay, I guess he went down this way. Let's go see if we can find him. And it's basically, it's not really stories, but they're like little missions that aren't just deliver stuff, basically.
Yeah.
A nice excuse to just drive around these environments.
So did you manage to find him, or was it like a body recovery?
No, we found where he was, and it's fine. And there's no like people in the game, as in like there wasn't a model walking around. You just get to where the location was, and it's like the radio is like, oh, okay, he's here. We confirm that he's safe, and thank you, job well done, blah blah blah. But there's also stuff like one of the missions was really simple, and this was the tutorial area, so maybe it's just a tutorial mission, but it's like, oh, we have some really nice views in this area. Can you like take the little scouting truck up there to see it or whatever. Or one mission was like, oh, we need to scout out these old gold mines that exist in this area and see if they're still salvageable or what kind of condition they're in. So again, just an excuse to go drive and find these areas, and then like you hook into the radio and it's like, okay, job done. It's really pretty simple when you like try to break down the gameplay loop in that way, but the setup and the missions make it a little more interesting than just drive here, get thing, drive back. Even though some of the missions basically, if you want to be pedantic about it, break down to that kind of thing. There's also like rescue missions for trucks and stuff. Like, oh, this truck got stuck in the mud. Can you go get it? Or there's one where like this hippie dude was camping out in the Grand Canyon and like rolled down a hill, and his like Volkswagen van is just like completely totaled. But he's like, oh, can you get my van for me?
Yeah,
See,
this is going to cost you.
so that was a side mission. It's like I went out there and like hooked it up to a winch and like got it. Well, I tried to get it back. I actually didn't finish it because I ran out of gas.
Oh,
Yeah, whoops. I probably should have loaded up with more. Because, okay, when you're loading up for the missions, you can... the little scout vehicles, they can only take so much things.
yeah.
So some of the things you might want to take are like a jack, so that if you ever like turn upside down, you can use that to like right yourself up.
Yeah.
If you don't take that, then if you turn upside down, you just got to forfeit the mission and like call in help. But there's also stuff like you can set up like winches that you drill into the ground. Because normally when you use a winch, you would use it like on a tree.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Or like on another vehicle. But there's these little items that you can use that like drill into the rock, and then you can just put those anywhere, but they're consumable.
That's unfortunate.
Then there's like spare gas, for example. That's very useful.
Oh, like jerry cans?
Yeah. I didn't take any spare gas with me on that mission, and I guess I should have, because yeah, I didn't anticipate how much more fuel I would be using dragging this freaking van back.
Oopsie daisy.
Yeah. Oh well. But anyway,
So I guess they kind of like the missions will break down in the same sense of like say American Truck Simulator, but you find them more interesting than that.
yeah, because it's not just like deliver this to here, even though it kind of is like the one where we were setting up weather stations. One of them was up by this like abandoned stone tower, so we get up there and there's like a little section where you could just look around, and he's like, oh, scout out the tower while you're here just to enjoy the views or whatever.
Are you able to get outside of the vehicle?
No, I kind of wish you could, but later on it kind of makes sense why you're in vehicles. But in the tutorial area where the map is a bit smaller, some of the missions to me were like, I could have just walked this here. But,
yeah, I was gonna say, because like you also brought up the metal detector. I was like, I guess I could see how there's a device that you put on a vehicle to scout the area for that. But if you're looking for metal, wouldn't you get out and use a metal detector?
I don't know if this is a real kind of thing, to be honest with you. A big giant metal detector that goes on top of the vehicle that scans for, big debris. One of the missions was like, we're testing out seismic activity in this area. So we need you to take the equipment and take it to certain locations. And that is a big piece of equipment. Like, I thought it was just going to be something you throw into like the back of the truck. But no, it's like a whole different trailer in and of itself.
Yeah.
So luckily when that happens, they give you the item. Like, obviously this is not yours to keep. This is just for the quest. So we're going to attach it to the truck. And like, I had to drive out to these areas, and in the true sense of mud runners or expeditions, like some of them are very rocky and muddy, and like you had to like make sure to get it up the hills and down the hills and over the rocks and everything. But then once you get to the location, you like pick a nice flat area, and it basically, imagine like a truck trailer, except like the four corners of it like come out and then drop to the ground, and like it does the seismic stuff there and like records the stuff. So after that, it's like, okay, this location's done. We got one more to do. So you drive to the next location and do that. And it's, again, if you're breaking it down, you could be like, well, this is like go to location A, then go to location B. But because of the way that the story and the missions are set up, it's kind of, I don't know, it just feels nice to have an excuse to drive around and do other things rather than just take this piece of lumber to this place, which is what Mud Runners was. I guess when you think about it, it's like it's all the same thing, but
it just feels different.
Yeah,
and
because
you know what? If it vibes with you, then that's good.
Because it's more of this like science-y and exploration stuff. It gives them an excuse to be able to just drive around the Grand Canyon. Because it doesn't make sense. You're not going to be delivering like a bunch of forklifts out in the middle of the desert or something, So this is a good excuse to drive out in these locations without needing to be like, you're dropping off stuff at this place. Because a lot of the other ones were like, okay, you're going to the lumber yard and then you're dropping it off to like the sawmill or something, right? So it's like established
locations.
Yeah, with like buildings and stuff. Whereas this, it's like a lot of wilderness. You'll run into camps and like an RV or whatever. Like one of the missions was called Breaking Brad. And it's like eventually you just find like the Breaking Bad like RV out in the desert.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, it was fun. I liked it. I liked it enough that I tried to play it again on Monday without realizing that the weekend was over. And it's like, nope, you can't play it anymore. You got to buy it.
Dun, dun, dun.
So it's like, I think it's like $25 at the moment, but it's normally $40. If I had nothing else to do, like I have a bunch of other demos I want to play, and also Suikoden has come out this week, will come out this week, I probably would buy it. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Which, if you looked at the Steam reviews, it's mixed, because a lot of people, they're kind of sad that it's not just more SnowRunners.
Oh, well.
But I think it's cool. I like that it's basically more of the game, except without the industrial aspect of it. Now it's more like varied missions where like, yeah, sometimes you are just going out to a camp to deliver some like equipment for the scientists that are out there, instead of just like, oh, can you bring over like 5 pallets of concrete blocks to this factory or whatever.
I mean, I guess there's probably some type of nuance to the reviews, but it feels confusing to me, I guess, a little bit, that like they would like SnowRunners to deliver things, but somehow this one that also kind of boils down to delivering things is not what they want.
Because sometimes you're not delivering things, I guess, especially for the scout missions, because there's 2 types of missions. There are the heavy trucks and the scout vehicles. The heavy trucks is basically what you would expect in these games. You got a big truck and you're loaded up with stuff, and you're either delivering things or you're using the truck's extra horsepower to like tow stuff. Because like your little SUV thing ain't gonna... I tried to, when I was scouting around with my, it looks like a Jeep. I don't think these are based on real vehicles, unless they're like European vehicles I'm not familiar with. But this thing looked like a Jeep. And I ran into that hippie's van, and I tried to tow it. Because it's like, okay, this is a van, and my thing's a Jeep. Surely this Jeep could do it. But because it's all like in the mud and going up hills and stuff, my Jeep just did not have enough power to move that thing very well. So I had to come back with a proper truck to do that. So like each vehicle has its
intended purpose.
Yeah, like the scouts are for zipping around real quick, and that's useful for when you're just, doing scouting things or delivering little stuff. Like one of the missions was, our team has excavated this little object. I forget what it was, but it was small enough that they didn't need a big truck. They just needed somebody to come pick it up. And they were in a remote location. So it's like, okay, I can come in my Jeep and we'll throw it in the back seat or whatever. But some missions are like, yeah, we're going to need a truck for this. So it's varied, and I like that. And you also get like other stuff, like you get like binoculars or a drone. So when you're like up on a hill or on a canyon, you can like pull out your binoculars to scout and be like, oh, there's an airdrop over there, or oh, there's a point of interest over here.
Do you think the reviews are upset because maybe doing all these more variety quests doesn't have like the more technical aspect that the previous games had? Or is it the same where like, oh, you have to make sure you're going at this speed with this amount of power and it's going to take this amount of gas to do that?
I mean, you still have to worry about that even in your little vehicle. Like a lot of the thing will be like, if you're going up a hill, a rocky hill, maybe deflate your tires a little bit. You'll get less mileage, gas mileage out of that, but because they're more deflated, traction. You get more traction for easier climbing. Same for like going through the mud or rivers. And then like, do you need 4-wheel drive here, or is 2-wheel drive enough? I feel like most of the time I'm in 4-wheel drive, but like if you can go in 2-wheel drive, that again will save some fuel. And then like even the little trucks sometimes might need a winch to like hook up to a tree to like get over past some like really rough terrain. There was one point too where there was this river, and there was a point where you could build like a temporary bridge. So you had to like deliver supplies to do that. It was almost Death Stranding like in that sense. It's like you can't. Okay, it wasn't like Death Stranding where you could just build anywhere, but basically part of this like little river in the Grand Canyon is like, we can build a bridge here, but we need you to bring the supplies. So like I got my truck that could do it in 2 trips, brought the supplies, went back, brought more supplies, built the bridge, and that made accessing the other part of the map a lot easier. So I don't know, I found it a lot of fun, and if I had nothing else to do, I guess I should have asked you this about your game too, like if money were no object and if time were no object, because I think if I had the money and time, yeah, I would definitely get this game. But as it is right now, I'm more time crunched, I think. If I wasn't as time crunched and I didn't have any other games to play, I probably would splurge the 20-something bucks on this to experience the rest of it. But I'm too busy at the moment, so probably not right now.
But I would guess because I don't know how much the Do No Harm game would be, or is. I don't even know if it's live
on sale
already.
Yeah, true. Fair enough.
I think I might. I also have the feeling like at some point it's going to become overwhelming, but like that also happened with Papers, Please.
That can happen with a lot of games, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would be curious to see what's going on in that game, and again, I didn't come across any bugs, so that's a good sign, and it looks good, it plays well. Yeah, I'd say probably.
On that note, let's talk about your next game.
Okay, the next game that was actually pretty decent was called Wholesome Out and About. I'm not entirely sure if they need the wholesome, they could just call it Out and About, but hey, whatever.
Maybe another game's already out and about.
Yeah, potentially. So this is like a semi-realistic-ish gathering game, and I only say that because they had 2 warnings before starting this game. One, you might come across bugs because this is a demo, which is fair. Basically, everyone had that warning before starting the game. And the other warning is they tried to be as realistic and, I guess, correct as possible with the aspect of figuring out different plants from other plants. But, you know, don't take this game as a complete teaching tool of how to learn how to gather.
Now, when you say realistic, you mean in the sense of like they're trying to be realistic with the plants and the statistics of the plants, right? Not that it looks realistic?
Correct. So it does look kind of, I guess you could say cartoony-ish.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was asking.
But the plants, yes, they will have the flowers as realistic in the like cards that you get. So you'll get a card saying like, oh, this is this plant. And then you go and find the plant in whatever area you're in and match it to the card. And you'll go to like, the plants is interesting. Okay, so this is where it's kind of like maybe not super realistic. Is when you're going to gather plants, they're in a very specific area. Like, okay, if you were actually in the woods, you might find one plant here, and maybe there's another of the same plant in the same general area. But for this game, you'll come across a plant, but it'll kind of highlight this whole little circle area, which is kind of where it comes to be not super realistic. But you'll click on the plant, and there will be, at least that I saw in the demo, there will always be 2 plants in that little circle area that you highlight. And for the 3, I guess it was like about 3 or 4 different circle areas that I came across. Most of them had, the 2 plants were both edible, but in one of the sections you have an edible plant that you can gather from, but there's also hemlock, which maybe a lot of people know, but hemlock is poisonous. So you have to like be very careful when you're identifying the flower part, the leaf part, and the stem part. and figure out which one is the edible plant that you can actually enjoy and which one is hemlock. And please don't eat that because you will die. Now, I don't know if you can actually die in this game. I'm assuming it's cartoony and probably not. I'm assuming they'll be like, oh, someone else will be around to help you probably, and like, don't eat this or something.
That'd be funny. Just speed run and see how many poisonous plants you can eat.
Oh, God. Maybe. I don't know. So you start off, you were camping with a friend of yours, I guess, and there was a storm during the night, and you have to make your way back to, I guess it's like a seaside town. Almost like if you thought of like maybe the seaside towns of Greece or Italy or something. It's kind of like, it feels vaguely like that. And I guess your grandmother lives in the seaside town. And when the storm came through, somehow you were okay in your tents, but like the seaside town was like really messed up from this. So you're going back and you're going to help your grandma and the town like rebuild everything, I suppose. The way that you're taking part in this, or at least as it was in the demo, you're going to gather ingredients, you're going to cook things, and the only item I was able to cook in this game was some kind of soup. And then you take those items that you make and you sell it to the villagers.
Okay.
And it's pretty cute. The only thing that got me was that, like, again, I brought this up when we had talked about this on a walk, was if the town, everyone in the town is affected, so you're going to do like a community sale, I guess, collect the money that the townspeople pay you, and then you're taking that money to redistribute to the villagers. Like, it just seems like a weird kind of middleman type of thing. Like, everyone could just pay for their own way instead of putting it in this one giant fund and then redistributing it.
I don't know. Maybe they're pooling together resources to build some kind of mutual building or something. I don't know. Don't overthink it.
We'll see if, like, maybe one day in the future the final game makes more sense of this. But as it stands now, I'm just a little confused by that whole concept.
So this game has a story and characters too then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like you got your friend, there's your grandma, there's your grandma's friend that you come across first, and she's the one that helps you, like, oh, here's these plant cards, and you can, like, oh, this plant has this type of flower, this type of stem, and these types of leaves.
Okay.
And then you just identify things. Then you gather the items, and then you go to, like, this little workbench, and that's where you take the plant bits apart and make sure you're picking the right items, I guess, that you need to make soups or something later. Another interesting thing was when you went to the town and your grandma's like, oh, you should make this soup and then we can sell it and stuff. You recruit some of the other villagers to help you make the soup. But it's like, it's just a soup. I don't need like these 2 extra people to help me.
Weird.
So maybe in the future when you're making more items, it'll make sense to have helpers in the kitchen. But as it stands right now, I don't need 2 people helping me make a soup. But hey, whatever. It was at least cute. I don't remember any gameplay bugs. Everything seemed to work correctly. So that was a good sign, I guess.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting too of like, are there going to be other things like, oh, we need to, start rebuilding some of the houses, so maybe we need to collect wood or something. And I know, like, that's probably super basic gathering, crafting game mechanics, but it would make more sense than, like, well, I'm just going to gather some mushrooms and make some soup and collect money that way. Like, I don't know. It seems more realistic to me. Also, I hope that when you clean up the village that maybe you can repaint some of these storefronts or something, because it was very brown at first.
Now, are you like walking around as a character, or is it just
yes, you're a character. There was a little bit of a character creator, but the options are extremely limited. But it's a demo, so that's fine.
So, do you think you would want to play more of this game if you could?
I'm vaguely intrigued, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, I don't know when it releases. I don't know what it's going to cost, so there.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we didn't write down prices for any of this stuff. All right, I guess I'll take about my other... This one was a demo. It's called Nitrogen Omega. Now, I don't remember where I saw this, if I just saw it on the Steam thing or if I had seen it on social media before, but it's basically...
This kind of sounds like they kind of just took 3 darts and threw them at a board.
Yeah, I don't know if it's... I think it's Japanese.
Oh, well, that explains it.
It's either Japanese or they're just using Japanese in a lot of it, because like there's kanji and stuff in the game too. Some of the kanji I can read, like for example, iko, like go. So like there's little arrows that have that kanji and then ko, and you can like, oh, this goes to the next section of the base. This is a game where you control a team. You start with 4, but you can recruit more people. It's you're flying around in this little airship, and you have like a mech that you pilot. Well, that they pilot.
Is it a cute mech?
Yeah, it is actually.
Oh, okay.
At least the one I have was just like this round ball-looking thing with arms and legs. It's not like a Gundam. It's not like a front mission mech.
It's not military-like.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. It looks utilitarian, but it's maybe just because it's of its shape. It's kind of roundish. I guess they're kind of based off animals, but not really. Like I think I'm running like one that's called the orangutan, but it just looks like a ball. It's very round. And like some of the enemies, one of them is like a bunny, but it's only a bunny because it has like these 2 little antenna things that kind of look like bunny ears. Anyway, it's kind of like this post-apocalyptic anime-ish world where like the robots and machines have attacked humans, and there's not many humans left, and there's like a few towns, and like they're whatever. The story does not seem important right now. There's basically no story in the demo.
Oof.
And you say oof, but I'm fine with that.
Okay.
This is not a game that seems like it needs story. It's very XCOM in a way. When you start the game, you basically get asked, what would you like to name your team? After you pick your name, you basically get 4 random crew members. And you can't choose who they are. You can't choose their names. There's only like a randomize button.
Okay.
So you hit the randomize button until you get 4 people that aren't like completely disgusting to look at.
Oh my god. Now I'm curious what these portraits look like.
They're actually really good. Like it's the characters are in 3D. They're very cel shaded. They look anime.
But you made it sound like they're gross.
Some of them because it doesn't have a character creator, but you can kind of see the skeletons of the character randomization. Like some of these characters have like certain poses or like certain faces or certain hair or outfits or whatever. Like if you had a character creator, you could see how you could cycle through these options.
And sometimes they just don't match up well.
And because it's being randomized, yeah, sometimes you'll get a character that just looks like a mess. But not like in a horrible way, just in like this guy's got a big weird nose, and his outfit is like skin tight and also kind of like matches his skin color, so it just looks weird.
Okay.
But sometimes you get characters that look great. So it's just whatever. Don't overthink it. You hit the random button a couple times until you get 4 crew members that look okay, and then you start playing. You start off on this little like airship thing, and you're on a big world map. Well, I say big. It's not super big, but it's a world map. You got an airship. You fly around. There's like 3 towns. There's like a main town and 2 outposts.
Okay.
Maybe there's more. That's all I found. You go to the town, and you can pick like there's a few things in the town. You're not walking around. It's basically like clicking on menus and stuff.
Okay.
The towns have like a gas station to fuel up your airship. An inn where you can go and hire more crew members if you want. When you go to the inn, you get like a big list of random crew. And again, you don't get to customize them. They're like just set characters. And they all got Japanese names. And they're all just anime. And again, like randomized character creator. Some of them look cool. Some of them look kind of weird. But I got lucky on my second playthrough. Maybe I should talk about my first playthrough first. Because I did not know what I was doing. I just went straight to the mission board, and then I went out to like fight some stuff and got annihilated.
Okay. Well, that does sound a little fun to hear.
So I did not understand what I was doing in that battle.
Is there no tutorial?
Vaguely, yes. There's
not
like
enough.
tutorial pop-ups, but it's still, you still got to wrap your head around the battle system. Okay, let's talk about the battle systems then. You're basically controlling, you got your mech that fights. When a battle starts, you see the airship come in and it drops off the mech, and inside the mech you have 4 crew members. One of them is the pilot. They handle the movement of the mech.
Okay.
One of them is a gunner. They handle the shooting of it, right?
Who would have thunk it?
One of them is the engineer. They handle stuff like reloading or deploying coolant so that, like, you know,
It doesn't overheat.
yeah. And then lastly is, I forget what was it like logistics? They handle stuff like scanning. They can they can type up on the computer and scan enemy information. And I think another thing they can do is like shoot out chaff or smoke bombs.
Okay.
So basically, inside this one mech, you got 4 people, and your job as the player is to tell them what to do each battle.
Your management.
Yeah, so in a battle, this first battle that I ran into was versus 2 other things, which was tough. And I was still getting my head around like, oh, okay, I gotta tell this guy can move, and this person can shoot, and then like figuring out where on the timeline this is all happening. It was confusing, the first one, and it was a mess. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to restart now that I kind of see how the battle is going. I'm going to restart. I started with a new team. I went to town and I went to the inn to see like the new characters that I could hire. Now they have an upfront cost, and then like a wage. And the higher level they are, the more they're going to cost, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got lucky, and in this inn, there was a cadet, which is, I think, level 1, versus my guys, which were level 0, which doesn't sound like a lot, but she had a skill that made it so that my missiles did more damage. And with that skill, I could basically 2-shot some of the enemies, which is like, oh, okay, this person is worth hiring. So I hire her, I move my starting engineer out, and put her in, because she's an engineer. She handles like reloading missiles and missile statistics. So with her, the missiles are more powerful.
That's always convenient.
So then I went to the job board, and this time I made sure to get an easy one. And this time it went way better. We went out to the thing, and it was like recover some data packs or something. I forget what we were recovering exactly, but there was basically just one little rabbit robot sitting there guarding it. And when you start the battle, this time I understood like a little bit more. Like there's this circle on the screen that kind of indicates the battlefield. And it's basically cut up like a pie into 4 sections: a north, west, east, south section.
Okay.
If the enemy is not in your section of the map, you can hit it with ranged attacks. But if it is, you can hit it with melee. So basically, you're kind of juggling, like, if I'm far away, I can shoot it with missiles, or I can shoot it with my gun. The gun is instant and just plink plinks. It's easy, but it's not like super high damage.
Makes sense.
Same for the melee. It's free to use, but again, it's not super high damage. The missiles do a lot of damage, but you have to worry about positioning a bit more, because it has an AoE, and it takes like not a turn, but it takes a little while for the missiles to reach there.
And you're gonna make sure that they like don't move out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things you can do as you're playing, there's a timeline in the bottom. Each turn, there is a timeline, and a bunch of stuff happens. You can command your crew to do one thing each turn. So, for example, if this little robot is on the other side, I can be like, okay, first, I'm going to tell my gunner to shoot a missile over there and make sure that, you know, it's not moving. You can kind of see what they're going to do. And as like you plan out more things, like more things will appear in the bottom screen. Like you can see like when the enemy is going to attack and if they're going to move. You can use your logistics person, I guess, to like scan the battlefield to like get more information if you need. So that'll tell you in more detail, like, oh, the enemy is planning to shoot on the 3rd action of this turn. There's like, I think 4 or 5 actions per turn, because you have 4 crew, and you have to like decide when each person is doing a thing. So once you like tell everybody what's going to happen, then you go into like the engage mode, or I forget what they call it, but like the action mode, and everything just kind of plays out.
Okay.
So you have to like plan ahead of time and like Did you move the person? Did the pilot move in the right position, or did you not need them to move so they can like guard instead? Did your gunner shoot where there's an enemy, or is there going to be nothing there, or whatever? Like one time, I thought an enemy was going to run into my area, so I told the pilot, okay, anticipate that and use a melee attack. But I misjudged, and the little robot actually ran into a different space. So when my turn came, when the action playing thing was playing out,
your melee didn't do anything.
Exactly, yeah. But when you start learning how to read the battlefield and like understanding everything that's going on,
you
and
can
you
predict
set up
a little bit better.
Set up the turn perfectly, it is so satisfying. Because like when you're planning things out, you're just basically looking at this timeline and like telling the things like, okay, pilot at this point do this, gunner at this point do this, engineer at this point do this. And like if you can set it up in a way that it all works out perfectly, it is so satisfying. I had one of these turns where I was like fighting two things, right? One was a melee robot and one was a rabbit, which is like a little machine gun thing. And the first thing I did was like, okay, I'm going to shoot this missile at the rabbit, and then I'm going to make sure to tell the pilot to move out of this space to go to this other space, because I knew that the melee robot was going to be chasing me. So like everything plays out. I shoot out the missile. It like does a bunch of damage. This thing is chasing me, but I jump into this other space, and like it's all playing out in the action scene as like these like anime cutscenes. It's like in 3D. It's real time, but like the way they present it, it feels very fluid, like you're watching an anime, and it's so cool. And then like the next turn, like I blew up this little rabbit, but the melee robot was still there. So I knew because it's a melee robot, it's going to be chasing me. And the rabbit had shot me a few times. Like I was able to guard once, but when you take damage, your crew has a chance of being wounded, and they have morale as well. So like if their morale is bad, they might like screw things up. I got unlucky, and my engineer in this battle got like not critically wounded, but wounded enough that she got knocked out. So she couldn't do her she couldn't reload missiles, and like basically my engineer was out for this battle, and it was kind of coming to the like down to the wire here. But because at least I got rid of the gunner, the only thing left was the melee robot, and I knew it was running after me. And I saw that like in the second section of this turn, and these turns are playing out really fast. They take like, I would say like a 10-second in real time. But because you're planning this stuff out, you're taking your time figuring out what you want to do. It's like, okay, I'm going to shoot it with my gunner, and then it's going to run at me. But before it can attack me, I'm going to tell my pilot to counter with a melee attack as it gets into range. So like I'm shooting it. Once the thing comes up, it's like it shows like the mech shooting boom, 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 and like damaging it. And then the thing like takes the damage and it's like plank, 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 and it starts running at my mech, right? But because I told my pilot to anticipate that, as soon as the thing ran into melee range, she like just whaps it with the mech's arm. The thing goes flying back, and that was enough to kill it. So we didn't take any melee damage. And it's just like when it plays out like that, it felt so cool.
I mean, it sounds cool.
And like visually, it's really cool. I thought that was so cool that I clipped it and put it on my Blue Sky as I'm testing out this whole video thing, as we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
So that is the one aspect of this game, like the battles. But then you have like the other aspect where you have the crew. And again, it's kind of like XCOM, where they're just kind of nobodies. They don't have stories. They don't have like characters. They're just randomly generated. I don't know if in the full release you can customize them like you can in XCOM. That would be nice. But as it is right now, you just got like 4 random Japanese named characters, and they have their random outfits and looks. You can't really change it. But you can train them and have like social interactions between missions. After a mission, you get like 4 social tokens, which is kind of an awkward way of doing it, but whatever. And inside your airship, you got your hangar where your mech is, so you can like repair it and stuff and customize it. But then you also have social stuff you can do. Like you can go to the gym and like tell 2 of the members to do some yoga together, and that'll like bond them, up their friendship, and make them happier. But you could also have them spar together or just lift weights. And some of the activities are group activities where they'll bond and become friends, or become like they can hate each other too and become rivals. And it's like,
now, is there any other game that Especially like the fighting aspect or the battle mechanics. Is there any other game that feels like this is kind of close to?
Not that I've played, honestly. I know that there's got to be some games out there where it's like you're planning out a turn and everything, once you plan out the turn, everything kind of like goes at once.
Yeah, because like I've played games where I've seen the timeline thing.
Yeah, like Grandia has a timeline, but it's like it's always actively changing and stuff. And like you're still inputting new commands even as the timeline plays. But this is like you set up a timeline at first and then it plays out. And once that timeline has played out, you then issue new orders. I'm sure there are games like that. I just haven't played any. Like even Unicorn Overlord kind of had that, where like once you get into a battle, you tell your units what to do, but once it happens, it plays out and you don't have any input. You in the chaos of the battle, like they do what they're told, and hopefully that works. But then, like I said, in this game, like you have the other social aspects. Like another thing you can do is like you can have them read. So if your gunner, for example, or your engineer has downtime, you can say, here, some engineering books, and like that'll boost their engineering stat. And as they level up, they get new skills. Like I had hired that one engineer that makes the missiles more explosive and deal more damage. But as my gunner leveled up naturally, one of the things they learned was to do a double shot, which increases like the heat generation, but it's very handy because like I was able to double shoot one of the rabbits, for example, bring it down really low, and then I forget if I one-shot it that way or if like then I moved into melee range, or I was close enough in the starting battle that like my pilot was able to, after the double shot, use the other arm of the mech to like beat it down and like just kill it in one shot, which is very handy when you're fighting two enemies at once.
Yeah.
So like I can see where not only do you have like the social stuff of your crew, where like some of them will like each other, some of them might not like each other, but then they also have like, are they happy or are they upset? Like one of my character's traits was she was an optimist. So I would like pair her with some of the people that were sad to do like group activities like yoga, and she would just boost everyone's mood, which is very handy, I guess, because like if they get very upset, they can even abandon your crew.
Yeah, got to keep up that morale.
Yeah. So like not only do you have the battles and stuff to worry about, but then like you got your crew, and like sometimes there's random encounters, or not random encounters, but like random events. Like after one of my battles where the gunner did a really good job, there was a little random event where one of the other crew was like, yeah, you did amazing this time, and that like boosted their like friendship and made her happy.
Yay.
So like stuff like that. It was really cool. The game feels like it's still in early development. There's a lot of UI elements that are like, they need to make this a bit more polished.
Yeah.
But like the core idea and the gameplay,
It has really good potential.
yeah, I think I really like it.
That's
And
cool.
it's tough because like when I first started and I ran into that first battle, I was completely annihilated, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? I don't get this.
Yeah, maybe they could work on a tutorial section, or at least make sure that your first battle is only a 1 versus 1.
Yeah, because the very first battle I went into was like 1 versus 2, and those things just shot me to hell. And yeah, it was not good. But then like going in the second time, I was able to take an easier mission, do a 1 versus 1, and was able to win, make some money, buy some upgrades for my mech. And then like, yeah, as my guys were leveling up, they were learning more skills, like their own skills, but then also we would buy parts that would apply new skills that the mech could do. Like I bought a body that could like release bombs, for example, that the starting mech doesn't have. So now I can tell my engineer, she handles the missiles, but she can also like release bombs now. And like these bombs will just lay where you are, and then like when a melee guy comes into that space, you can like move out, tell the engineer, okay, we're out of there, blow up the bombs. So it's like more and more attacks and things you can plan around and execute in the battle. So yeah, I really liked it. I posted a little clip on my Blue Sky if you want to see what it looks like in motion. It's hard to explain, but like once the battles are playing out, it looks so cool. Like they did a really good job. It feels like you're watching a little anime. So yeah,
Yeah, I'll definitely have to take a look at that.
Nitrogen Omega. It was really good, and once it's out and polished a bit more, I think it has a lot of potential.
Well, that's always good.
At least for me, because this is definitely more of a systems games versus a story game. But I kind of like that, so I don't need a story. Like, there is basically no story, at least yet. I don't know if they're going to add it, but yeah.
Would that almost make you sad if they added a story and goofed it up?
I don't know. I mean, if handled the right way, I'm sure they could. Like, the game is very visually interesting. I like the character designs. But because you're using randomized characters, even if you customize them and name them like you can in XCOM, I know a thing that a lot of people like to do in XCOM is like take your random characters and name them after people you know, or streamers will be like, oh, I'll name it after the people in the chat or something.
Yeah.
So here's Ristray, the heavy gunner, and like then that person is more invested when like the streamer is using that character in a fight. So I can see how that could tie into that. Like, oh, who wants to be my gunner? Who wants to be the pilot? And like name them after friends or whatever. But as far as characters, yeah,
tricky because you start naming things after people you know and love or whatever, and then something goes horribly wrong and you're like absolutely destroyed inside.
Yeah, I mean that happens. I know when I was watching one of the YouTubers I follow, like they were playing XCOM and they named one of their units after their cat.
Oh, okay.
And then like the cat died.
Oh no!
It's like, oh no, rest in peace, kitty. I don't know if there's permadeath in this, because my engineer did at one point like get so injured that she got knocked out, and they played like a little scene where she's like reaching towards the console and just kind of like slumps over to the side. But there's a hospital in the town, and we were able to get her from critically wounded to wounded, and after that, it's like, okay, that's all we can do now. It's going to take time for the wounds to heal, but at least at wounded, they can still like pilot. I don't know if there's permadeath. I know they can abandon you if they are not happy with their morale or whatever, but that hasn't happened to me yet. And I mean, it's a demo, so
yeah, either that's not enabled yet, or you just weren't that bad, which is a good thing.
And it's kind of tough because like it feels like I don't know if there's a way to determine who's getting injured. Like when this robot is shooting at my mech, I can dodge or use like the smoke bombs or use a guard. If my pilot isn't doing anything else, I can just tell her just guard, and she'll put up the mech's like heavy arms to like absorb the damage, and maybe that'll prevent crew from being injured. But if you just get hit full on, like I don't know what determines who is getting injured or not, if it even happens. Like sometimes you'll just take mech damage and nobody will be injured, and like sometimes it'll just be like a morale test. But yeah, there's a lot of systems I don't fully understand yet, but like I can see how even with this, it's a lot of fun, and I will keep playing it and keep an eye on it. Like I still want to play more of the demo. I want to like, now that I have a crew that's working really well together, I want to keep playing until like we get wiped out. I want to go into like a hard mission and be like, okay, this is where it's getting too much for my lowly little crew. I don't know.
And it'll also be interesting to see like how far you can get into the demo before it's like, okay, that's the demo. So
yeah, I think it's kind of just open ended.
Okay.
But it like I said, the game feels like it's really still kind of in beta at most. Like it needs a lot more polish, but even
the potential is there.
Yeah, I liked it. I think it's cool. I think we got time for one more game.
I was gonna say because the other 3 demos that I tried were extremely rough and not something I would probably play. I don't want to like say their names because that just seems kind of mean if I just beat down on them.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's the thing too. Like, the Steam Next Fest is such a
crapshoot.
Not even just for the players, but for the developers, that like a lot of them are like, this is going to be my chance to get eyes on my game. And it can pressure a lot of early games or inexperienced developers to put out demos that aren't like totally impressive, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this. If you are a developer or someday become a developer, and there's a Next Fest or any type of special where you can put up your demo, I understand there's going to be bugs, and that's fine. But at least in the case of one of these demos that I played, you need to at least make sure that your movement feels good. If the movement doesn't feel good, and it's not because of bug issues, that does not look good for your game, regardless of how much potential it might have.
Movement. Is this like a third-person game?
For the one I'm talking about that I won't name, it's it's a platformer. It's a platformer game, which, depending on how deep you get into making a platformer, these can be very simple games. Platformers tend to be
3D
some
platformer?
of the... No.
2D platformer.
2D platformer, pixel platformer. These are some of the games that will be the first games that people make. So, okay, I understand it's going to be a bit rough for a lot of people. And I say that as, I tried making a pixel 2D platformer, and I realized it was rough. But I also realized that I couldn't put this out even as a, what do they call it?
Alpha?
Not even an alpha, but like just a playtest thing. Movement in a platformer is such a big thing that you need to get that as close to possible as feeling good as you can. Because in this demo, there were ladders that you could come across. And it just seems like, oh, you get to the ladder, you press up, and you just immediately start walking up. There was lag between pressing the up button and actually starting the ladder animation. And I'm like, you need to get that as down to perfect as you possibly can, because it's just...
Maybe it's supposed to have lag, as in like more a deliberate movement.
Yeah, but it wasn't playing the movement as being deliberate.
Anyway,
I don't know.
Maybe,
it was just...
Yeah, maybe I'll look at it later, but like I can see how some... The thing with a lot of controls is like sometimes not everyone's going to agree on things. Like I remember when The Witcher 3 came out, a lot of people were like, Geralt moves really weird. Or like when Arthur in Red Dead moves around, it's like, oh, he feels kind of sluggish, but it was also like, well, he moves more realistically. He doesn't turn on a dime.
No, like, I get that, but it's just, I don't know. The movement did not feel good to me. It didn't make sense that it took what felt like a long time to go up the ladder. And
all right,
it was
fair
just,
enough.
I don't know. I didn't like it.
We can not get too deep into that if we're not going to even talk about what game it is. So, okay, yeah, there's going to be some demos that aren't great. And yeah, I know, even the one I just played and we talked about, like there were some parts of it where I'm like, oh, this needs some work. Like the UI elements or getting in and out of the menus, like, yeah. But sometimes you can overlook that, sometimes you can't. And, well, we still got a lot more demos to play. I think we'll do one more week of demos because the Suikoden collection doesn't drop until...
You said the 6th, right?
Yeah, at the end of the week.
Thursday.
So I figured maybe we'll play that on the weekend, and until then, play some more demos.
Yeah, I still got a few that I
yeah, me too.
downloaded,
I still got at least 3 more demos that I want to play. So, and I only talked about 2. You only talked about 2. So,
yeah, the 2 good ones.
We still got a lot more demos to think about and play, and then we'll do some Suikoden shenanigans.
Yeah, you're really, really excited for me to play that, so.
I want to experience the updated localization. So yeah, even if like for
That's
some
fair.
reason you didn't want to, I would be playing it. Yeah. I'm excited about that a lot. So I guess that'll do for now.
Yeah, this was a decent sized episode, I think, once it's all edited down.
Yeah, probably like an hour or so. Alrighty, that's another episode of GameRomp. I hope you...
Enjoyed this.
Yeah, I hope you didn't hate it.
Yeah, okay, that really, building up our...
GameRomp demos. GameRomp demo mode. I don't know. We're talking about demos and just more frugal gaming.
Yeah, I guess that would count as frugal because they're free.
Yeah, but still, like, they were fun. Like, I had a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, mostly. So we'll see you next week. We love you and hope you have a good week. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Bye.
Have a good whatever now.